Hey guys, welcome to another video. So a couple weeks ago I asked you in my community tab as well as over on Instagram if you had any questions for me, and you guys definitely delivered. So let's get into the questions. Fessler Family Fleet asks, you may have answered this in a previous video, but you have a partial American accent and living in Australia. Where are you originally from and how did you end up down under? So I get this question quite a lot in regards to my accent. I was born in Australia. So I was born in Melbourne, Australia. I grew up here until I was 8. I moved to Greece when I was 8 and didn't come back until I was around 25 years old. So having said that, I went to school in Greece and I watched TV, basically American series and movies, etc., with some British ones thrown in there. So my accent kind of simplified, to put it that way. It kind of had a lot of American and British influence, as well as just simply getting watered down from the fact that I was in another country where English wasn't the main language spoken. Mars17 asks, how is your TTC journey going with 2 children? I have a 3-year-old and 1-year-old, and trying for baby number 3 is not easy when they don't want to fall asleep. That is, I think, the number one thing that drives me crazy this time round. Having 2 children means that one could be awake when the other is asleep, one could wake up the other. It's just so many possibilities of not having that time with your partner to TTC in the first place. It's hard work. It takes a lot of energy from us being tired. Sometimes we'd have to wait until 12 midnight even when they're both finally asleep to even have time to be with each other, let alone to do anything else. It does take a lot of work. I will say one tip that I think probably works best when you're not under lockdown restrictions. If you have someone where you can drop off the kids for an hour or 2 hours, I would definitely recommend it. It will do you good in your relationship generally to have that time where it's just the 2 of you without worrying about the children waking up or one of them needing something, etc. It's just a lot easier and simpler. The reality of it is you have to kind of make it a bit of a fun, finding those 20, 30, 40 minutes in between where you can have fun with your partner. Make it fun, make it exciting, that you're trying to kind of, find different ways to get around it. For example, we do have Iris in our bed, so that's fun. So Rebecca Maidment asks, I was wondering if you still have your cute little pink car or if you have had to upgrade to a bigger family car. We used to have a hatchback, but with first Bubba, with 2 kids, pram, bag, nothing fits. I do have my pink car. I will admit, does not work. It's definitely like a squeeze. Like we can't go grocery shopping, etc. with the girls because we can't fit the pram and the shopping, like the groceries, into the car. We are looking for a bigger car at this point after having realized that it's not working. We were able to kind of hold on to it for longer, I believe, because due to lockdown we didn't really go anywhere with the girls as much, so we didn't get as much use out of it. But yeah, I still have it. I don't want to let go, but honestly I think that I'll have to. Nicole Walls asks, how do you get anything done with a 1-year-old? My daughter is 15 months old and has been so clingy and cries if I leave the room. How do you teach to play independently? So I have to say, Iris has her days. So sometimes she's super independent, she'll just play around with her sister, or she'll just go off on her own in the toy room and just have fun without caring where I am too much. She does want to kind of see me, so I can run to the toilet, for example, or maybe go to the kitchen while she's in the playroom because the kitchen is quite close to the playroom. In all honesty, as long as she can see me, I'm pretty much just accepting the fact that I need to have her close by so I can do things. And there are days where I just give up completely and know that I'm not going to get anything done because she wants to be held all day, or she just wants to sit right next to me being very noisy, and yeah, so I just accept it. There comes a point where as a mum you just have to accept that you can't do everything, and there are days where your children will simply be number 1 priority above pretty much everything else, and you can't really do anything about that. I find that accepting certain things like that actually helps your mental state as well, because when I try to battle it, I usually end up mental mess. And that's Angel singing next to me. Juju Rivera? Juju? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. She asks, your daughters are beautiful. She says, thank you. I have a 1-year-old and he's so active, touching everything, putting everything in his mouth. So my question is, how is it dealing with the toddler? Because some days it's chill and some days for me I go crazy. Yeah, that's, oh my gosh, I feel like that is the description every mum of a toddler will give you if you ask her how her days are going. Some days are just perfection and some days are insane and I feel like I'm losing my mind completely. I will say this, Angel was perfect. As a toddler, as a 1-year-old especially, she put nothing in her mouth. She would touch nothing. She would put nothing in her mouth. She was amazing. And then I had Iris, who literally will not leave anything alone. She will touch everything. She will pick up everything. She will put everything in her mouth. She drives me mental. I've just come to a point where I automatically get rid of things that are dangerous, things that could be like a choking hazard, things that would be dangerous in any other way. And I accept the fact that she will be eating fluff off the ground and I can't really control it. So again, accepting certain things are out of your control when you have children is a lifesaver for your mental state. Jess Christine 96 asks, how do you stay so positive about your TTC journey? It must be exhausting. Oh, TTC. TTCing it's one of the most exhausting, mentally exhausting things I have done ever in my entire life. It's such an emotional roller coaster. You're constantly like happy, excited, down in the dumps, utterly depressed, sad, like confused, wondering what on earth is going on, feeling like giving up, not wanting to give up. There are so many emotions. It is the most insane roller coaster. At this stage, I try to stay positive in that I am allowing myself the time to get pregnant. Like, I'm not setting a time limit on when I can get pregnant. I'm allowing myself at least a year of trying before my body is actually ready to get pregnant. It's a bit of a mind game really, where you kind of tell yourself that it's okay. So I tell myself and I give myself the permission to not over stress and to not feel like I have a date by which I have to achieve certain goals. I've allowed myself definitely a year of trying before I start looking into other options, etc. And I feel that is definitely helping me a lot this time around, not feeling that I need to be pregnant right away. Like, this cycle, it has to be positive. If it's positive, oh my gosh. If it's not, it's okay. I give myself permission to be sad in that moment, and that's okay. You don't have to get that positive right away. It will happen when it is supposed to happen. Mrs. H asks, how did you meet and fall in love with your husband, and what was your wedding like? Ooh, okay. So me and hubby met through a mutual friend. He had spotted me a while back and asked her to introduce us. Few things happened in between that, with it not happening for quite a while, until finally she did introduce us. And it was pretty much from the moment we met on, I called him the next day. I know, controversial. I called him the next day, and from then on we have never been one day where it's never been a day where we haven't spoken to each other. Wedding wise, we had a civil ceremony, very simple, very like kind of practical, to be honest. We are planning on having a religious ceremony, but that hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping it will happen though. Tatiana Derka asks, how long did you TTC with your first and second child? Did you know you were pregnant before taking pregnancy tests, and what symptoms did you have during those 2 times before you found out you were pregnant? So multiple questions here. How long did I TTC? So with Angel, it was pretty much nothing. So 1 month, straight away, first try, all done. With Iris, it took us a year. So our 12th cycle was our positive cycle. So that's the reason why I'm actually giving myself this 1 year at this point. And I will be honest and say that even behind, like at the back of my mind, I do have the idea that it might take longer than a year, clearly because I feel like I started earlier thinking that would be a good idea, and I'm now thinking that maybe breastfeeding, etc. is not helping me. That's a whole other thing that we will see. Did you know you were pregnant before taking a pregnancy test? With Angel, I did, because everything changed. Like, I didn't have my usual PMS symptoms. I had extremely different, like I was feeling very weird. I had very sore, tender breasts. Everything was just different. And I was like, okay, something is going on here. With Iris, I actually felt implantation. So a couple of days before my pregnancy test, my positive pregnancy test, I did feel like this kind of pinch pull, and it was a very weird sensation. So yeah, that's pretty much. Tracy Mills asks, what are your normal post-ovulation symptoms? Not for pregnancy, just in general. So generally, ovulation for me is usually followed by pain. So I do have like a slight pain on the side of where I'm ovulating from. And I do tend, this time around, I do tend to get a little bit queasy around ovulation. I'm not sure why that happens though. But yeah, I do get a little bit nauseous when I ovulate. Who knows why. Sarah Lean asks, are you worried about pregnancy? I know it wasn't easy the second time round. Are you scared about juggling 2 kids whilst pregnant? Okay, Okay, that is definitely one of the number one things I am utterly terrified of. Pregnancy for me, my pregnancy with Iris was quite difficult to the point where I really wasn't able to look after Angel the way I wanted to. That is something that I am concerned about, I will admit, but I feel like I have learned certain things from that experience and will hopefully be able to handle things better and kind of delegate things a little bit better with family and friends rather than trying to do everything myself. I'm more so worried, I will admit, about the pregnancy itself. I'm hoping that, as we know, every pregnancy is different. I'm hoping that this pregnancy, when it arrives, will be different in a good way. That's my hope. Eva Boessa asks, how long were you married before you had your first baby? So we were married for just over a year, I would say. So we got married in January of 2015 and I got pregnant in May was it? Oh god, my brain. In May of 2016. Rayanne S. Ambrosini asks, how did you know you were ready for a third? Honestly, my husband has always said he wants 3 children. We've also discussed that we did want a little boy, but well, we had 2 girls, that was fine. Thinking that I was pregnant back like I think it was just before I started TTCing officially, it just woke this feeling inside of me where the fear I had of trying to get pregnant again, of going for that third baby, just kind of went out the window when I thought that I was pregnant. So I kind of accepted it and realized that I was happy with that. Like I was okay with it. So it took a little scare. And similarly with Iris, the same thing kind of happened. I had a pregnancy scare and realized that it wasn't so much a scare as much as like a happy little nudge in that I do want another baby. Okay, this one's an interesting one. So Script Family asks, will you move back to Greece at some point or stay in Australia for the kids to go to school? So right now, and when we moved here, of course, the plan is to stay here, to build a home, etc., have the girls go to school here. I will admit Angel's health has put a lot of questions in our heads in regards to whether the climate of Greece is a better option for her, but we still have so many unanswered questions when it comes to her health that honestly that's not even something that we've fully even spoken about. So I will say this though, that if you were going to move country, so if we are to move back to Greece for example, it definitely needs to be before they start primary school. So before Angel starts primary school, meaning it is literally next year. After that we're pretty much staying here. We're not moving anywhere. So yeah, it's for now we're staying here, but you never really know. I don't like saying that we're done, this is where we're staying, nothing's going to change, because you never really know what life throws at you, and you might move somewhere else. You might have to change things because, you know, things change. Zainab Ibrahim asks, how old are you? And I actually get this question a lot as well. A lot of people are interested in my age for some reason. I will be 31 years old at the end of this year. So end of December, I turned 31, which is, I feel like I just turned 30 and it's very weird. But yeah. Santana Burr asks, what do you want the next baby to be, girl or boy? So we do want a little boy this time round. Anything, of course, we're happy with either girl or boy naturally, but our preference is towards a boy since we already have 2 girls and hubby would love to have a little guy to just, you know, do all those boy stuff with. Not that he doesn't with these girls, but you know. Charlotte Zambia asks, how many children do you want? So if you asked me this question a year ago, I would say 2 and I'm done. Currently, we are trying for a 3rd. So I will say I don't think I would want a 4th, but as I said before, I think saying that I'm never going to do this or I'm never going to do that kind of sets you up for disaster because you're bound to do what you said you're never going to do. That's just the thing I've learned in my life. I would say 3. I'm happy with just 3, but you never really know. Okay, so moving on to Instagram questions. Okay, Masa Kata, sorry, I can't read that. I am so sorry. So she asked, we're trying to conceive for 4 months and I was recently diagnosed with PCOS. Any thoughts? PCOS is a tricky business, and I do believe, however, that as long as you have a good doctor who gives you all the information you need and all the support you need, that it is definitely possible to conquer and get pregnant. There are so many women out there with PCOS who get pregnant. It is not something that can stop you from getting pregnant if you really want it. It's a stumbling block, a really big one, but it is something that you can work around. Amy Sarge asks, farthest you've ever traveled? What was your wedding like? And perfect date with hubby. So wedding I replied to earlier. The farthest I've ever traveled other than Australia, I guess in the opposite direction would be England. So I went to London and I've also been to Paris, France. that's probably about it. Perfect date with hubby. Honestly, at this point, it's peace and quiet, watching a movie, munching on popcorn, and just being able to sit next to each other without a child jumping all over us. Simple, right? So Brittany Kate has 3 questions. Number 1, how are you? I am very good, thank you. She says, will you celebrate Halloween with the girls? So here in Australia, it's not such a big deal. It is becoming one, but with lockdown and everything, it's kind of gone on the down low, not too crazy. They do have their costumes. They are excited about it. We will probably do like a little trick-or-treat with close family, just kind of taking them to a couple family homes, and that's about it. But that honestly is enough for them. They're happy with that. And she asks again, as other questions above, when did you know you were ready to try for number 3? I'm torn. Honestly, I think it comes down to realizing that you want that 3rd baby, realizing that you're okay with going through a pregnancy and the newborn stages, when you're scared, when you think that you're actually pregnant and you just kind of have to accept it. That's what I found in my case. Divine Jamaican asks, ever thought of moving to the States? Actually, we had contemplated that a while back. My husband has an aunt there. We came here to Australia, so they are kind of similar, I guess. I do want to travel to the States though. Definitely want to travel. I definitely need to visit places. C Lovey 02 asks, nighttime with the girls. 14-month-old wakes up every 4 hours still. Nighttime. I have not slept through the night since I got pregnant with Angel. That's almost 5 years now. So Iris still wakes up probably at least twice a night, if not more than that, and Angel tends to wake up as well, so they do tend to wake up each other a lot as well. It's hard. It's hard. I definitely don't get a straight nights of, like, I haven't gotten, I think there was one night where I had like 5 hours of straight sleep and I was like, what happened? Like, I felt so refreshed. I was shocked. But I do know that eventually that will stop it happening. Like, I know Angel was a really difficult sleeper. She had just started sleeping through the night when Iris was born, and then Iris would wake her up, and yeah, that went out the window. I know that once Iris is old enough to sleep in her own bed and feel secure that she's all good, and they will be sharing a room. Don't know how that's gonna work out. I know eventually they will sleep. Right now though, nah, I'm not sleeping. I'm not getting no sleep. What do you think the best age gap in kids is? My daughter is 21 months. So my girls have 3.5 years difference. It is quite the difference. Like, when you see them playing together now at this stage, you can see the difference because Angel wants to play differently. Iris doesn't really understand. I do wish they had a minimum of 2 years difference, I will admit. I feel like that is kind of a good difference, the 2 years, because they're close enough to play together and they're like further apart so that you're not completely drowning in just like having 2 babies to look after, etc. But yeah, I do wish my girls had a smaller difference. It's why we started TTCing when we did with Iris, but it did take us a year, so it took longer than we thought. That is all of the questions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed finding out a little bit more about me. If you have any more questions for me, leave them in the comments section down below, and I will definitely be making more of these. Bye, guys.